If you understand the mindset, you'll be much better off going down this process.
This video is brought to you by Wise. More on them later.
Thailand's best visa. I happen to think it's the long-term resident visa, LTR visa for short. And today we're going to chat with an amazing couple that has retired here in Bangkok that just had this visa issued to them a few short months ago. They're repeat guests on this channel. Their names are Bob and Paula. They're originally from New York. I did a video with them last year, and more than 200,000 of you guys have watched that video. Another 4,000 have liked that video. So based on the positive feedback, I figured I'd bring them back on the channel, make this video all about the step-by-step process as to how they got their LTR visa. You know, this being Thailand, things that you might see on the website aren't always exactly what ends up happening on the ground. And so this video, we're gonna walk through everything step by step, and they're personally gonna provide some color commentary at each of those steps to help you realize some things that you need to think about, consider, and understand as you navigate applying for this LTR visa, the wealthy pensioner category more specifically. So if that's you, if you're considering this visa, keep on watching this video because I think you're gonna find it real helpful. So step 0, first things first, let's go over the specific requirements as listed on the LTR visa website. So I got my handy dandy Thai visa cheat sheet here. I actually paid a Thai visa agent to make this for me. But if you want this package, then just enter your email below and I'll go ahead and send it to you. So with that said, Paula, let's go over the requirements for this wealthy pensioner category of LTR visa. So first things first, scan of your current passport with at least 2 blank pages. You guys did that? Scan of a professional headshot photo with a solid white background. You guys had to do that.
Yep.
50 years of age or older. You guys are both over 50. And then this one is a little tricky. So a health insurance policy covering at least 50 grand US for hospitalization and medical treatment in Thailand with no less than 10 months of remaining coverage. So that's option 1 you have for this health insurance requirement. Option 2, you can show evidence of state social security benefits ensuring hospitalization and medical treatment. Now you guys are from the US, so that would be Medicare, which doesn't cover you overseas. So that didn't work.
Nope.
And then you guys didn't want to purchase the health insurance policy because when you're over 70, everything's a pre-existing condition and it gets expensive. So you guys fulfilled this requirement with option 3. Financial evidence or a bank statement showing a cash deposit of no less than 100,000 US dollars, which has been held and maintained in a standard checking account for no less than 12 months prior to the time of application. So that was a bit of an ordeal for you guys, a bit of a pain in the ass, but you did meet that requirement. Bob's gonna talk about that later on. Bob's actually gonna go through each of these. Right now, I'm just laying out the basic requirements as listed on the LTR visa website to get us all on the same page. Next up, the official personal income tax return. So you guys being American, it was your form 1040 that you provided. And this tax return form needs to show unearned or passive income of no less than 80 grand a year. You know, things like interest payments, dividends, rental income, realized capital gains. That's the route you guys did because you had more than 80 grand a year in passive income on your tax return. But if you don't have 80 grand a year on your tax return, but you have more than 40 grand a year, again, this is all passive income. In that case, you need to provide evidence of investment here in Thailand of no less than 250 grand USD, whether it be in Thai government bonds, Thai freehold property such as condos, a lot of condos in this city, or direct investment in companies registered in Thailand. But that specific point didn't apply to you, right? Because you had the 80 grand in passive income.
Right.
There was some back and forth on that, which Bob will get into. A lot. It's not always as easy as it seems, guys. But that's that point didn't affect you. And then the last thing, requested on a case-by-case basis, letter of verification issued from the applicant's country and nationality or residence stating the applicant has no criminal record, which you guys don't, and you weren't even requested that, or a Thai police certificate issued by the Thai police, and you weren't asked for that,
right?
It wouldn't have mattered anyways because you're not criminals here in Thailand.
That's right.
Whew, that was a mouthful. So with all that said, now that I'm done checking my handy dandy cheat sheet here, back to step 0. The table has been set. What did you guys do to get the process started?
Step 0. Okay, I like that. First of all, you should get this cheat sheet. It's really good. I wish we would have had it. But yeah, so we went on the website, the BOI website, and things weren't really that clear as to whether or not we should file as a married couple or as individuals. So we set up a meeting with them and went over to their office, and I guess we had about a half hour or so meeting with them, and they suggested that we file as a married couple.
Okay.
So that was kind of the beginning of the process.
So step 0, book a consultation with the BOI. It's free.
Yep.
Just have to make a meeting with them. Go in there, have a bit of a powwow, bit of a Q&A session, and determine the best way to proceed. You guys determined that you know, Bob was going to be the primary visa holder. You were going to be the dependent,
right?
And you're going to apply together as a married couple,
right?
Got it. Okay, cool. Well, I think it's time to move into step 1 now.
Okay, Bob's turn.
Bob's turn. All right, quick pause before we get into the next step here because I have something really cool to share. So this is actually the first sponsored segment I've ever done on this channel, and I'm really happy that it's with Wise because I've used their platform for years, ever since I moved to Thailand, and think that they're the world's best global money management platform, especially for people like me who live overseas. So with that said, if you're thinking about relocating to Thailand or even traveling to Thailand or anywhere else, one thing that you'll quickly realize is the fact that moving money across borders can be a real headache. Between the hidden fees, bad exchange rates, long wait times, traditional banks or currency exchange outlets make it crazy expensive and far more frustrating than it needs to be. If you're relying on international funds and transfers to pay for things like rent or visa requirements or even just everyday expenses, you're gonna want a better way to handle all of this. And that's exactly where Wise comes in. Wise gives you the real mid-market exchange rate, the same rate you see on Google, without the crazy markups that banks sneak in. Their fees are low, their fees are transparent, and they're far cheaper than what banks charge for international transfers. On top of this, transfers on Wise are insanely fast and come with tracking links to keep you in the loop throughout the entire transfer process so you know exactly where your money is. So here's how it works. First, you create your Wise account and can then open up different currency balances inside of the platform. From there, you can add funds to select balances. So for me, I generally add US dollars. So let's say I wanted to add in 2,500 US dollars. Well, I can easily do this by way of a few different options in an extremely affordable way. After that, I can then choose to keep those funds in US dollars, or I can convert these funds into another currency inside of Wise. In this case, I want to convert 1,000 US dollars into Thai baht. So I can go ahead and do that at the best possible exchange rate and without any hidden fees. Finally, now that I have actual Thai baht, I can choose to send it directly to my own personal Thai bank account. I can directly pay Thai vendors from my Wise account. So this is really helpful for my landlord, for example. Or I can use the Wise debit card to spend directly here in Thailand using Thai baht. If you want to check it out for yourself, then sign up using the link at the top of this description, and you'll have the choice between a fee-free transfer up to 600 US dollars or a free Wise debit card to directly spend from your Wise multi-currency account on. All right. Let's get back to the video and break down the next step in the LTR visa process. Bob, what I want to do here is go through steps 1 through 5 on the BOI flowchart here, and just dig into each of these steps, provide some color commentary, and just get into the weeds here. Sound good?
Sounds good to me. So how we started, the first thing, there's a portal that the BOI has for the LTR, and it was a pretty decent portal. So what I did is I established 2 accounts as, they recommended, one for myself as primary and one for Paula as dependent. And that went pretty easily. I think Adam mentioned, some of the requirements, like we had to go get a headshot, and that headshot had to have a white background, and you had to be appropriately attired, and I guess appropriate means a collared shirt. We also had to provide copies of all the pages in our passport that had Thai stamps on them, plus the bio page, and we had to take all those pictures, create a single PDF, everything, and you'll see that's pretty consistent throughout. What they ask for when they ask for multiples is they expect you to be able to put that in a single PDF. So if you're going to do this on your own, you're going to need to have some capability to create PDFs. And then there are 2 primary areas. The first, let's talk about the first. The first was health insurance, and Adam alluded to the fact that we are self-insured here. We do that for, I guess, kind of the reasons you mentioned, is at our age, most of the insurance that you can buy here in Thailand, there are exclusions for pre-existing conditions. You can buy them off, but that gets pretty expensive. We have Medicare back in the States, which doesn't cover us here, but in the event of a catastrophic situation, we could always fly back to the States. While we're here, we just pay out of pocket. But what that caused us to have to do is show them proof, evidence of $100,000 for me, $25,000 for Paula in cash. And they wanted it in a bank account or a checking account. That got to be a little bit of a challenge. First of all, most people don't keep that sitting around in cash. We had some of that in various checking and savings accounts, but the bulk of that money sat in an investment portfolio, a managed investment portfolio, and that didn't exactly meet the black and white bank account. So we had to go through and convince them and explain to them and convince them that a cash account within the portfolio is the same as a bank account. We did get through that, and we're able to meet the requirements. Now, some months that account, the big account, fell short of 100,000. So what I did is I created a spreadsheet. So for the months that big account fell under 100, I had checking account and savings account. I did a spreadsheet, put it together, so it would be very obvious and easy for them to understand that we, in fact, every month for 12 months, met the requirement. And again, that had to all be documented combined into a single PDF. We had an issue because the portfolio is in both of our names, and at the 11th hour, they threw up, well, they can only consider half of those funds as available to me. And I had to go back and forth with them. I had to do a letter of explanation. I had to explain the legal concept of joint and severally, the fact that it's 100,000, it belongs to both of us. Either of us can dump in, can pull from that account. Eventually we got through it, but that did get a little testy. The next area is income. As Adam mentioned, in the wealthy pensioner category, you need to show $80,000 of passive income. So I just went ahead and I submitted the tax return. You've got to substantiate, it was a little strange, but I had to substantiate the income that was on the tax return. So I had to go to, in America, the Social Security Administration, I had to get a letter, a benefits letter from Social Security validating my Social Security payment. And I also had to validate the investment income from the brokerage accounts. They were looking for the traditional American 1099, which is a single sheet of paper 1099 you get from people that pay you interest, dividends, and so on. In a large investment account, it's a brokerage statement. So we had some back and forth because they wouldn't accept that brokerage statement as the 1099, and I had to prepare another letter of explanation and take some copies right off the income tax, the 1040 income tax form, to show that the brokerage statement can be used in lieu of that one slip of paper for the 1099. So we were able to get through that, and then once again, I had to combine all of those into a single PDF and submit that. As Adam mentioned, we had no criminal record, no request for any information on a criminal record. And that's kind of where we are. The process could have been much more efficient had I understood that any deviation from the exact written requirements required explanations, and everything needed documentary evidence, backed up by statements and so forth. You've got to remember, what they're looking for is compliance with the rules, not whether you can afford to live here properly and take care of your medical expenses. So if you understand the mindset, you'll be much better off going down this process.
With that said, I think this is super helpful. Bob just covered steps 1 through 5. Let's go catch up with Paula and talk about step 6, part of the approval process. All right, so before getting into step 6 here, guys, parts 1 to 5 that we just covered, there was a lot of talk about income, about funds, about moving money around, proof of funds. So you guys have lived here in Thailand basically full-time for how many years now?
About 4 years now.
And as part of that, you regularly have to bring in money to support your cost of living here, correct?
Absolutely.
So I'm curious, back when you had first moved here, about 4 years ago, how did you go about deciding how to actually bring funds into Thailand to cover your cost of living here?
Well, I looked at all the options that were available, either from the investment account. Can I do it directly? Can I do it directly from my normal account, Citibank? And then I looked at some of the online offerings. The one that rose to the top, clear head and shoulders above, was Wise. And since I've been here now for about 4 years and met a lot of folks in similar circumstances, most everybody I know uses Wise.
Now, Paula, you were telling me off camera that you guys don't bring in money every week per se, or even every month, but you like to bring in large chunks, 25, 30 grand at a time to cover your cost of living here. So I just want to dive into some of the fees as part of your actual last transfer.
Okay.
Using Wise.
The last amount of money I think was about $30,000 US, and we brought it in December. And I believe the fee from Wise was I'm pretty sure it was $235 US.
About $235 US.
Right.
And Bob, would that have been at a pretty favorable exchange rate?
Yeah, that's the one thing with Wise. You get a very favorable exchange rate. And contrast that with what you get at a bank, which is not favorable, but more importantly, you don't know what it's going to be. So it gets, you kind of putting yourself at the mercy of a bank versus actually having something that you can depend on.
All right, step 6. So Paula, can you walk me through what happened as part of this section in the process?
Sure. So we received an email telling us that all of the qualifications that we had submitted information on were met and everything was fine. And then we had to provide those documents, and then we also had to set a date as to where we were going to pick up our LTR visa. We could pick them up either at our home embassy or here in Bangkok at the BOI office. Being here, of course, we chose to pick them up at the BOI office. And they're very strict about this. If you can't change where you pick, because if you do, you have to start from square one. And we were not about ready to do that. So once you choose a place, that's where you have to pick it up.
Got it. And then as part of this step, did you have to provide any sort of additional documentation?
We did. We had to provide some additional documentation, and it was mainly to allow us to stay in the kingdom during the transition period of when they suspended our non-immigrant O visa and the time that it took for us to get our actual LTR visa.
Got it. So there were some forms that you had to complete that came from the Immigration Bureau. Mm-hmm. And to make sure I understand it properly, those forms were all geared around allowing you to remain in the kingdom.
Correct.
Between the time that your non-immigrant O visa was canceled and the time that your new LTR Wealthy Pensioner visa was stamped into your passport. That's correct?
Exactly.
Got it. Cool. All right. Step 7. Okay, step 7 and 8. Walk me through what transpired, Bob.
Our application was approved and we were invited to make an appointment, which we did. And as part of that, we had to bring copies, hard copies, of several documents with us. Some of those documents we've submitted before, so I was a little taken aback by why we had to do it again, but ours is not the reason why. Anyway, just to give you a feel, the documents we had to bring a notification of qualifications endorsement form, the original LTR visa application, which is a TM.94, the temporary stay form, which is an STM8, a passport-sized photo for each of us, the document that confirmed our appointment, and then there was a payment slip. It was a little bit like an invoice that they used to process our payment. And the payment for us was 50,000 Thai baht each to get the visa. So we did all that, and next step is to go to the appointment, to the BOI.
Let's do it. All right, steps 9 and 10. Time for Bob and Paula to pick up their LTR visa. So just walk me through what happened there on your appointment date.
Well, we had the date of appointment all scheduled and the time, and we went over to the BOI office. You've got to dress appropriately, as you'll see. From there, we met with the BOI folks, and they physically walked us around the immigration office to all the steps. There's a map with a lot of steps, but it's pretty easy because you've got a guide through the whole process.
Got it. And then, Paula, after that, it was time to get the actual LTR visa stamp issued to your passport. So how long did that take?
So after about an hour and a half being in there, we actually got the stamps, the LTR visa stamp, in our respective passports. The whole process took 73 days. Would have been a lot less, probably more like 50 days for the whole process. But we had a little snafu with Bob's passport. And we didn't put that in this video because it didn't really affect the LTR visa process. If you're interested in that and you want to see what happened with Bob's little snafu with his passport, you can go to our YouTube channel, Unconventional Journey, and check out our Seoul, South Korea video.
They got it involved an emergency passport situation from the U.S. Embassy in Seoul. And remember, if Wise is something that is of interest to you, whether you're a traveler, whether you live overseas, or whether you're planning to move overseas, or even, send money to a loved one overseas, Wise is definitely the best way to do that. So just click the link below. And if you're considering relocating to Thailand, I'd also highly recommend that you check out the Thailand Blueprint website. It's really a one-stop shop service for everything that you're going to need to go through as part of your potential move over there. So just click that and click the link in the description below if that's of interest to you. With that said, thank you guys. I appreciate it. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Cheers.